Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for January 18th, 2023. Notice has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and sending a copy to the Montclair Times, Star Ledger, and Herald News. This is a public hearing in which any members of the public are welcome to attend. The meeting agenda is available on the Montclair website, as is a link to the township's YouTube channel where the hearing can be viewed live or after the fact. The hearing is also being televised on Channel 34. I'm going to go ahead and call roll now. Mr. Harrison?
Here.
Mr. McCulloch is excused this evening. Mr. Caulfield? Here. Mr. Church?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Moore is also excused this evening. Mr. Simon?
Here.
Mr. Vieira?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
And Ms. Martineau is not here. And then I have one change to the agenda this evening. Under new business, item A, application 2810 70 Grove Street. This is a conditional use to convert a two-family dwelling to a three-family dwelling. This is being carried to the February 15th, 2023 meeting without the need to further notice.
We have the minutes of the January 4th meeting. I have a couple of changes. On page 4, line 17, it should say Reverend Rinnell was recalled instead of just called. And on page 6, last line is a typo, which would be land use laws. And on page 8, line 27, to be consistent with the others, it should say he is a member of the church. That's how the others are described. Anyone else with any other changes to those minutes? If not, someone want to
Move to approve the minutes
Second.
as amended?
as amended.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, and then we have the resolution for St. Luke's Church. I have some changes to that. On page 6, the fourth line down, it should say, I said I only read the conditions, so.
I know you that. I read it.
Okay. It should say most box trucks. And then on page 7, I would put in under the third line under 9, it say the parking lot maximizes available on-site parking. And I'll skip my change to number 10 because it's a philosophical discussion, but we should delete number 11 because we have a condition that says they shall conform to the lighting requirements. And then renumber 12 and 13 as 11 and 12. And then also on page 8, the first whereas on that page in the second line, after granting this application for a variance pursuant to NJAC 40:55D-70D2.
NJSA.
NJSA, yes. Don't mind me, I was doing regulations today.
Okay.
Okay, any other changes to the resolution?
Who's eligible to vote?
Everybody except Ms. Harris.
Okay, so someone want to make a motion?
Motion to accept the resolution as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, and then we have the resolution to appoint the board engineer, which is continuing Boswell Engineering, who was last year. Any changes to the resolution? If not, someone want to move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The first application is that of Dr. Cory Waxman this is an application for a variance to construct a covered porch extension on existing single-family at 319 Claremont Avenue. The property is located in the R3 Garden Group District. The property is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 18 of Block 1507. The proposal requires a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-57A for the addition to have a front yard setback of 39.9 feet, where 44.7 feet is required. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Is the applicant here?
Okay, Dr. Waxman, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Cory Waxman, 319 Claremont Avenue.
And who's to your right? Okay, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
And your name and address, please?
First name Cyril, S-I-R-O, last name Antonio, T as in Tom, A-R-Q-U-I-N-I-O.
Okay,
And the business address is 511 Milburn Avenue. Thank you.
okay, are you
Short Hills.
an licensed architect in the
Yes,
state
I
of New
am.
Jersey? Okay,
Yes, sir.
let's proceed.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll walk us through the project. As the chair mentioned, the property is at 319 Claremont Avenue, just up the street from us here. It's in the R3 Garden Group Zone, single-family residence built in 1902. It's a colonial revival house. Last week, we were in front of the HPC. I believe you have their comments. They were supportive of the project. The project at hand is an extension of a front porch to connect to a side porch. And I'll walk us through first the calculation for the average front yard setback, which is what is creating the need for a variance on this project. The minimum front yard setback requirement for the zone is 25 feet, or the average front yard setback of the adjoining existing structures. We took into consideration 3 of the existing structures adjacent to this structure. Number 315, which is southeast of our property, which has an existing front yard setback of 50.1 feet. Number 323, which is just northwest of this property, which has an existing front yard setback of 41 feet. And then the next house, 325, with an existing front yard setback of 43 feet. Those measurements give us an average of 44.7. If you look on the first sheet, V0.0, that average front yard setback lands about halfway through the existing front porch. So we'll jump over to the next sheet, which is V0.1. These are pictures of the existing house, so I can walk us through the architecture a little bit. As you can see, on the front left corner is the front porch, which is a 2-bay front porch, and on the opposite side of the house, on the right side of the house, is a 2-bay side porch. The house has clapboard siding on the first floor and wood shingles on the second floor. The porch detailing is classical detailing with classical columns, and a very simple classical railing, all of which we are proposing to replace in kind as we testified to the HPC. Next sheet is V1.0. This is a plan of the existing. Here we can see the 2 porches. The front porch, I'll give you some dimensions for reference, is about 19 feet 10 inches wide, and projects from the main portion of the house about 10 feet 2 inches. And the portion of that existing porch that is beyond that average front yard setback is about 4.8 feet. We are proposing to extend that as you see in the next sheet, if we flip to 1.1R, we are simply extending the front porch and connecting it to the side porch to create one cohesive wraparound porch. Again, not encroaching into the front yard any more than the existing porch is. Both structures will have to be rebuilt almost completely. They are both in considerable disrepair. Again, all of the detailing will really be matched as it exists now, the existing detailing. The next page, V2.0, is just a view of the second floor showing the type of roofs that the two existing porches have. They both have hipped roofs, which is also consistent with the main house, which has hipped roofs on all sides and a flat roof on the half story above the second story. We are proposing to match all of that, as we can see in the next page. Excuse me. V2.1R. The new wraparound porch will also have hip roofs. Next page, V3.0, are existing elevations. The front elevation, depicts the existing condition, the two porches. Again, the detailing is classical columns. The porch is supported by brick piers, which match the foundation of the house, which has brick veneer. We are proposing to, again, rebuild all of that in kind. There is a lattice detail, actually, which wasn't depicted on these existing elevations, but you can see in the pictures in the front. We are proposing to replicate that, and you'll see it in the next sheet as well, as we drew it in the proposed design. If we flip to that, V3.1R, this is the proposed new elevation. Again, hip roofs. The porch will continue across to the right and connect to the side porch. The lattice detail I was describing will be replicated. I think one of the planning comments was that the landscaping should be extended across the front of this porch. We're happy to do that. Again, all the detailing will be consistent with the existing. The bottom image is a view from the side. The column spacing, that was one of the comments from the HPC. We did adjust that. Per their comments, we have a column spacing of about 10 feet on center on the front and about 12 feet on center on the side. The next page, V4.0, are just existing views of the porch from the rear and the west side of the house. And those views are really not changing much at all. V4.1 shows that, essentially rebuilding it as it stands today, as seen from those perspectives. We also testified to the detailing of the columns and the railing. These are pictures of the existing, as you can see. Probably has a couple dozen coats of paint on it, and I think the piers are really falling apart. The floor structure is falling apart, so all of it really needs to be rebuilt. But we'll make every effort to rebuild it in kind. We think the project is definitely going to improve the view from the street of the house, and is definitely in keeping with many of the other houses on Claremont that have similar porches that are as wide, if not wider, than the house. Many of them are wraparound porches, and we feel that would be an improvement to this structure and the streetscape. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Members of the board have questions? Mr. Simon?
Is the porch original to the house?
Yes, absolutely.
So the existing porch is already in need of a variance?
The existing is non-conforming, that's
It's
correct.
non-conforming,
Yes,
yes, that's
yes,
right.
absolutely.
And your proposed reconstruction of that, at least the front part, is going to match the same location, the same footprint of the existing porch?
Absolutely, yep. And we can take a look again at V1.1R. In that proposed first floor plan, we've actually dashed in the shape and size of both the front and the side porches, so you can see overlaid on top of the proposed. It has absolutely not encroaching any farther on the left side or the front. It's just extending towards the right and then reconnecting to the side, to the right side, and that is not going to encroach anymore on the side yard setback there either. So we're maintaining the left side, the front, and the right side setbacks.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions, Mr. Church?
Is this renovation is cosmetic, right? It's not, this isn't going to be used for extension of waiting rooms or anything else?
No, this is a single-family residence, has nothing to do with
Does
Dr.
he-
Waxman's business.
Does his doctor practice out of this residence?
This is his
No, no.
home.
You don't practice out of this, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the board?
Yeah, just, what is the average front yard setback for the area here that we're talking about?
Well, the average for the houses that we surveyed next to this is 44.7.
44 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this porch, the existing porch, is at 39.9, so just under 40 feet.
Yeah, I mean, I thought when I do my math calculations, I got 40, 47, not 44, but that doesn't necessarily matter. Doctor, how does the house work with these two different porches? Like, how did this come about, you think?
It's hard for me to say. We did find a picture, Prisco found a picture of the house from many, many years ago, and it had the two porches, and they were not connected. It's hard to say exactly why they did that when most of the houses around do have a wraparound porch. As it is now, basically the side porch is not used. It's also in pretty bad disrepair, so we're trying to fix that and maybe make it a little bit more usable without really changing the footprint.
Okay. The leaders are not, you're going to have leaders on these, on this porch, right?
Yes,
That'll
absolutely.
be on the property of the doctors, correct?
Yeah.
Is it? The neighbor to the left has a porch.
Yes.
A wraparound porch, okay. I grew up in houses like this with porches. I think the reason why this happened this way is because you have that bay window, brings in a lot of light. When you
Right.
put the porch there, that bay window is going to be more, on that first floor, might be more darker than, but
Right.
that's, I don't know, maybe not there.
It could be, yeah, because they have that part that's
But it
pushed out
doesn't
there.
function in that way, as I see this. Thank
Right.
you.
Any other questions from members of the board? Just one on the landscaping. You have, there's a small tree in front of the bay window that looks like it's exactly where the porch is going to extend to. It shows on the picture of the plan, or I saw it. Is that going to be salvaged, or?
Yeah, I have a distance on that, give me 1 second. We think the tree absolutely can stay. By my calculation, the tree is 16 and a half feet from the distance of the porch extension. So if we extend the porch, oh, that little guy?
Yeah,
Okay,
not the
sorry.
big tree.
I've
The big
already
tree-
talked to the landscaper about it, and she's planning to move it.
Okay, because I
Okay.
just think.
Sorry about that.
We'll break up the porch visually.
Yeah.
And you indicated you were willing to put landscaping in front of the porch. I don't think you need to do it on the side, but I think you have landscaping across the front now.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, any other questions from members of the board? Okay, are there any members of the audience who either have questions, testimony, comments, anything whatsoever you want to say about the application? Okay. Anything further the two of you want to say before we discuss and vote on the application?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll start the discussion with Ms. Harris.
I'm in favor of this application. The proposed extension doesn't extend past the existing front yard setback, so I think it's fine as presented.
Caulfield.
I'm in favor of this too. It's going to be a missing piece that was going to be filled into this, so I'm in favor.
Mr. Church.
I'm also in favor of it. I think it will blend in very nicely with the neighborhood and enhance that particular structure.
Mr. Simon.
I'm in favor.
Mr. Vieira.
I'm also in favor of the application. I think it goes with other houses, so it will be a nice enhancement.
I'm also in favor of the application. I think, this is not encroaching any further than the existing front porch does. I think it'll visually enhance the appearance of the house and give them one big functional porch rather than 1.5 functional porches and small porches. I think the only condition is that they have landscaping in front of the porch with at least one small tree that will partially break it up, either the existing one or a replacement. Any further discussion? If not, would someone want to make a motion
Motion to approve the application as submitted?
Second.
with the condition, with the landscaping condition?
Oh, with the landscaping conditions and recommendations from the HPC?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Go do your porch.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good question. Where is set, for the average setback? You could pick any three houses or? it has
No,
to be
it'd be
adjacent?
the adjacent houses.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next application is that of Joe and Kate Jeydel for a variance to construct an addition to a single-family dwelling for property located at 36 Bruce Road. The property is in the R1 one-family zone. The property is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 63 in Block 2503. Proposal requires a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-45A2 to allow a three-story structure where a maximum of 2.5 stories is permitted. The proposal requires a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-45C3 to allow a 3.8-foot north yard, side yard setback where 6 feet is required. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Please.
Whatever you want.
Projectors, it's up to you.
Yeah, if it's helpful, sure.
Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
I do. State your names and addresses, please.
Go first.
Catherine Bartoldas Jeydel, 36 Bruce Road.
Joseph Sheehan Jeydel, 36 Bruce Road.
And that's Jeydel, is that
Correct.
correct? Okay, you can proceed.
Well, the architect didn't come, so he just approved through email everything, but we just have like a 2.5-story house, and we have 3 children. We would like them all to have a bedroom, including us. So we thought the 3rd floor would be nice to have a little bit more headroom, so we can make a nice master bedroom with a, functional bathroom. Just modest. And we'll push for a little deck, sliding doors, if possible. I could add more color if you want, but I feel like I'm just rambling, so. Just trying to make the home more comfortable.
Can you describe a little bit about the existing condition of the 3rd floor and what you're proposing to do physically?
It is very, very enclosed and boxy. It's a lot of lath and plaster. It's like 2 little rooms that are just sort of jammed, and the bathroom is looks like something from the 70s with had a Sears single shower, literally from Sears, it's a single shower. And it looks like they did it as an afterthought just to say there's a bathroom up there. So it's just not used. We don't use that floor at all.
What side would this dormer be on that?
The
Is it-
plan is to take the entire thing and just go as far as to the supporting walls, so we can just have it be mimic the 2nd floor.
Okay.
We're going for whatever we can, you know what I mean? We'll
So
accept.
where that top thing is extend out to the,
Yeah, just
Yes.
to where the 2nd
Okay.
floor walls sort of match the 2nd floor, look like the 2nd floor. Obviously, I have to get the solar panels by the company moved, and they know that they'll know to do that, but nothing is done in the front at all.
I have a
Yeah.
question. What about the height? Are you going above the height of the house?
We're
or-
just matching the current dormer height. So like basically whatever that dormer is would just be wider.
Just wider.
If that's okay, I mean.
Yeah, it's not going to be any taller, though.
Not
you
any
know,
tone?
She's shorter than me, I don't really
Yeah.
need a lot of headroom.
I can
so
survive in the whole house, but he's,
Just, yeah, I mean, whatever is, we're at the mercy, so whatever it is.
The dormer that's there now, is there a room, a usable room up there now?
That dormer is the bathroom.
Oh, that's just the
That's
bathroom?
the
Yeah.
bathroom.
That's it.
Very yucky bathroom.
And that's going to be taken out?
I would imagine that they would take it out to make a new one because it's, you know, probably be very difficult to add to that one. I'm not sure. But yeah, the idea would be whatever they have to do, just it's wide.
Tommy, I have a question for you. This is a kind of a strange zoning code thing here. What's the 5-foot last 40%? Like, how does that all work out?
Okay, so it is pretty confusing, but I think the easier way to look at it in this case is the width of the dormer compared to the elevation of the building. So if it's more than 50% of the width of that face of the building, it's considered a full story. There is another provision about headroom.
Yeah, that one.
So that one, I need to look at the language exactly. It's pretty confusing.
Half-stories must have headroom 5 feet or less.
Right.
40% of the total floor area.
So I think it's easier to look at it in the inverse. So there can't be headroom of 5 feet or more for more than 60% of the floor area of that floor.
Okay.
And I think that in this case, both of those triggers are
Okay.
triggered.
So the two variances that are required is because this is a 3-story structure now, where only 2.5 stories are allowed. And then on the northern side yard setback, they're seeking 3.8 feet where a minimum of 6 feet is required. Those are the two variances. That's why they're here.
What's this set?
sorry, can you repeat the second variance?
The second variance, it says, it's from Montclair Code Section 347-45C3 to allow a 3.8-foot north side yard setback to the addition where 6 feet is required.
Is that on the footprint of the house?
Yeah, because your house is clear 3 feet 6 inches on
Right.
that side. So
You're
that's- building
matching-
it up there.
You're matching the existing setback, but it's
Oh, you
non-conforming.
mean of the physical house?
gotcha.
I'm thinking the property, I'm like, where?
Yeah. So the addition
I understand, I
needs the
understand.
variance.
Gotcha.
Oh, gotcha.
Are you proposing any work to any other part of the house or just the third?
Just
Nope.
dormer.
Are the kids going to be on the third floor?
No,
Okay.
they wouldn't, no.
There's a deck.
When they have their own
There's a
house, they
deck,
can be.
Oh, and the deck is facing which direction? Is it going to be facing
Oh,
the
that,
shorter
deck,
side?
so it'll be like where the solar panels are?
Yeah.
It'll be like right there. It doesn't have to happen, it's just because of
Okay.
nice. Just more light. But yeah, it faces the rear, sorry, it faces the rear of the house.
Any other board members with questions before I start? So, let me start with Tommy. The setback is measured from the side of the house, not from where the roof overhangs, or is it measured?
Right, that's correct.
And my understanding is the addition is going to line up with the existing second floor on both sides?
That was the idea, I thought, for me,
Yes.
not knowing anything, I thought structurally that would make more sense, but that's just what I thought.
And are you going to have solar panels on top of the addition? You're obviously going to have to replace the ones.
I have
that
to
are-
put those back because of the contract. I had to put those back up on the top, but I would, you know, that would be it. I'm not
That was
looking
more
to-
of a curiosity.
Yeah, I have
question.
to, yeah. We had we bought the house and there was already a contract with the panel company,
Okay,
so.
and do you know, I can't immediately tell from the plans, how far the deck is going to be set back from?
I think the deck, we were talking 3 feet by 6 or 4 feet by 6, if that's what you're asking. It's just a concrete slab, right? That's what you mean, the upstairs, the third floor deck?
Yeah.
Just a 4x6.
Yeah,
Pad.
I'm trying to, let me do, my one concern with this is, decks on third floors aren't generally there because the ordinance doesn't allow, and having a deck looking over your neighbors, and particularly if it's deviating from the side yard, is something I would not be happy about if I suddenly was looking up and saw my neighbors and.
That's a good point, okay.
Well, there's also a large tree at the back
Well,
of
in the
the
back,
yard.
you have the tree, I mean, it's deciduous, but on the side, it's,
Sure.
which is the setback here.
Would a privacy wall have to be put up then?
That would further compound.
That's
the
fine,
area.
that's fine. It's a wish.
Okay. Any other questions from members of the board?
So the deck lines up with the second floor? The proposed deck?
No, it's off of the dormer
it would be like-
on the third floor.
And they're proposed,
It would be like if the dormer was already here, it would just be like here and then a sliding glass door.
Facing out to the.
Facing us, yes.
Yeah.
There you go, just like that.
But it still lines up with the footprint of the house, it's not extended?
Yes, it's
back.
not an extension.
Oh,
Off
right,
of
right,
that.
right, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
are there any members of the public who either have questions, testimony, anything you want to say about this application? Anything further either of you want to say before we discuss and vote on the application?
Not sure if it matters, but I got 3 returned from the,
The certified letters, I don't know if we have to handle that some other way, or,
No.
okay.
No, it's one of the problems with that requirement of sending it certified is it's not the most efficient way of getting notice to people, but that's what the law requires. We'll start discussion with Mr. Caulfield.
So, in the code, we've written the dormer 50% thing, which I still don't really get in that sense, but, the house is 50 foot wide, and you're an expanding family. So I'm going to put those in my considerations and say that I'm in favor of what you guys are doing, in favor of this. I am not necessarily in favor of the deck, but I think that's more of a grab. But I'm in favor of what you guys are doing here. Thanks.
thank you.
Mr. Church?
Yes, I would also be in favor of the application minus the deck.
Okay.
Because of first of all, it's not that big. And secondly, I think the chairman's concerns of overlooking neighbors could be a problem. So I would, the extension of the dormer is fine with me, but I would not want to see a deck up there.
Mr. Simon?
I'm also in favor of the application without the deck, more so for the precedent. I think where your house is located, it wouldn't be a problem, but I distinctly remember other places who wanted to extend from 2.5 to 3, and a deck would be problematic. So just from a precedent standpoint, I would be in favor without the deck.
Mr. Vieira?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also in favor of the application without the deck. But I think the other 2 requirements are okay, especially if you're not going beyond the line, the setback of the house, so I'm okay.
Ms. Harris?
I am also in favor. I don't love the elevation of the back of the house, but it is the back of the house, and hopefully it won't be visible from the street. And I understand it's a small building, and they're trying to make the most use out of that 3rd floor, so I'm in favor of this application, minus the deck.
I'm also in favor of the 2 variances that are requested. I think we've struggled with this half-story. I think, we do not have a lot of 3-story houses, particularly in parts of town that are relatively flat, but, we've struggled with this and, generally been supportive where the addition is on the rear of the house, not visible from the street. Your house is a considerable distance from the houses on Park Street that you back up to, and there's a lot of trees in between. I think, more concerned with the neighbors on either side, but I think given you're not encroaching any further on the side yard on the north side, I'd be in favor. I'm not in favor of the deck. I just think having a third story with a deck is just going a step beyond, while the addition itself would not result in a substantial detriment to the public good or substantial impairment of the zone plan. I get nervous, as Mr. Simon said, with a precedent of suddenly a lot of people doing decks. I understand it at the shore, but, it's something different from Montclair. And, so if someone want to make a motion?
And that's a motion minus the deck, correct?
Right, we're approving the variance with the removal of the deck, the two variances.
I would make a motion to approve the two variances without the deck.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Go
Thank you
into
very
our
much.
master bedroom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you ask for public comment?
I did.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
All right.
Sometimes I do. The next application is that of Kamran Foroughi for property at 7 Clinton Avenue. This is an application to reconstruct a garage at the southeast corner of the property. The property is designated on the township tax maps as Block 1303, Lot 18. Property is located in the R1 single-family zone. A variance is required from Montclair Code Section 347-45C1 to permit the garage to be set back approximately 0.5 feet from the side property line, whereas the ordinance requires a minimum setback 10 feet for principal structures, and a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-45D to permit the garage to be set back approximately 1.25 feet from the rear property line, whereas the ordinance requires a setback of at least 29 feet. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Trembulac, you want to give your appearance?
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Alan Trembulac, appearing on behalf of the applicant. Happy New Year to everyone. This is an application for side yard and rear yard setback variances to reconstruct a garage in essentially the same location as the garage formerly on the property was located, which is tucked very close to the side yard and the rear yard lot lines. My client, sitting next to me, Mr. Foroughi, will testify regarding the circumstances that bring us here today. Before I have him testify, I would like to mark two exhibits, and I have multiple copies to distribute to the board. First exhibit, which I've already marked Exhibit A1, is the 1995 survey of this property, showing the garage in the location previously. And the second exhibit, which I've marked Exhibit A2, is a survey that was prepared by Richard Hingos on November 1st of 2022, which shows the garage in its current condition. And as you've probably seen from Tommy's report, this garage is partially constructed. The survey that, again, I marked as A2, shows the existing, the setbacks of the existing garage, and as you'll see, the garage is still very close to the rear lot line and the side yard line. However, It's actually further away than it previously existed. You know, previously it was about 3.5 inches from the side yard line, side lot line, and now it's 6 inches. And the rear is also a little bit further away than what previously existed. Obviously, variances are required, but it's important to note that the garage is essentially in the same location. So,
While you're doing that, I'm going to swear in the applicant.
Yep.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
Would you state your name, please?
Kamran Foroughi,
Spell your last.
Foroughi.
Okay, and your address?
7 Clinton Avenue, Montclair.
Thank you.
Mr. Foroughi, are you the owner of the property at 7 Clinton Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Okay, how long have you owned the property?
About 21 years.
Okay, do you live there with your family?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So in the fall of 2022, did you hire a contractor for the purpose of performing certain repairs to the garage?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe the problems you're experiencing and the work that you contracted for to be done with respect to the garage?
We did have a major issue with water seeping through to the garage, and also one of my neighbors had complained to us about the condition of the garage, and also during the COVID time, things got delayed, and we hadn't started any kind of projects on it. Anyways, it came to a point that we decided to go ahead and do some repairs. After meeting multiple contractors, they all suggested, because the condition of the garage is pretty dire, we should start doing some excavation to see how badly the framework or the structure is damaged. We finally hired someone, and they started the project, and I think Alan has a picture of it. And once they started digging, taking some of the plaster walls off, they noticed all the framework was water damaged from a neighboring house, because when I think the house was built a bit higher or raised. So basically the garage was set lower into the ground, basically about 6 or 7 inches. So all the water basically went to the garage. So the plan was to see if we can repair and salvage. While they were doing that, parts of the roof actually crumbled and came down, and parts of the sidewall actually came in. And that was the point the contractor suggested, to go ahead and reconstruct the same place. And there is some parts that I didn't do my due process, my own kind of investigative things that I had to do.
All right, so I'm showing you a photo which we'll mark as Exhibit A3. Can you explain what is depicted in that photograph?
It's basically the old garage that was, they started removing the plaster walls and also parts of the roofing plasters to see if the walls, the beams are okay.
So this was the condition that you discovered after the
Correct.
work started? All right,
Correct.
I'm going to ask that this be marked A3. I'm embarrassed to say I came to the meeting without pen. All right, so at that point, did you instruct your contractor to proceed with reconstruction of the garage?
That was the part, and the contractor kind of said, well, we're replacing the garage in the same place it was. We're using the same foundation, only about a wall we're going to move and things like that, basically.
Okay. All right, and so your contractor proceeded with this work, and am I correct that at some point, the building department learned that this work was being done without a permit? Is that correct?
Correct.
And was a stop work order
Yes.
issued by the building department?
Yes.
And you were assessed a fine for having work done without a permit?
Correct.
And did you pay a fine to the building department?
Yes, I did.
How much was that?
About $2,000, I think,
Okay.
$2,000.
Okay. Can you describe how much work was completed before the stop work order was issued?
Basically, I think the plan was just to do the floor and just use the same floor and just build over the existing floor and raise it for 6 inches. And he did the framing.
Okay, so he framed it, and
Correct.
what about the roof?
And he also did the framing for the roof.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
All right, and has any work been done since the stop work
No,
order was issued?
not in the
And then
garage.
you realized you had to apply for these variances, which is
Correct.
what brings us here today?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you've already indicated the location of the new garage compared with the location of the garage that was essentially removed. It's the same location?
Same location as this.
Same foundation?
Same
which is
foundation,
built up?
yes.
Okay.
Except the end that was a little bit curved. And that's the only part that with the variance that you're asking. But
Okay.
most of it, 99%, yes.
So I'm showing you the 1995 survey that was marked as Exhibit A1. This shows in the rear of the garage a portion that was sort of bumped out.
It was curved, yes, because there was a
Sort of a shed?
shed, sorry, a form of a shed in there, in the
That
back,
was essentially attached to the garage?
to the garage,
Okay.
and with the entrance in the back, in the yard.
Okay. So that was, the shed was removed also?
Yes.
And then you just extended the garage out?
Not fully to the whole shed, if I'm correct, he did it shorter,
Okay.
not to encroach the property,
Okay.
the neighbor's property.
Okay. Okay.
Excuse me, can you repeat that last part? About the shed? The shed was removed and then you had said something after that.
So, right, the shed went all the way to the end of the property. And if I'm correct, he extended it shorter than the end of the shed, I think about 2 feet. And one of the reasons I think he did, because if he went fully, because that shed curved kind of at the end, because it would get close to the southern part of the property line. So what he did was basically made it shorter so it doesn't encroach on that property line.
It's further away from the rear property line?
Yes,
Is that what
about
you're
2
saying?
feet, yes, if I'm correct. This, by the way, I learned later. I didn't know this ahead of time.
Okay. The old garage, what kind of roof was on the old garage?
So the roof was not flat, but as if I understand from multiple contractors, they mentioned was an internal framing. Basically, the framing wasn't on the outside of the structure, was built in within the structure. And for that sense, it didn't have the right pitch. So the angulation of the kind of the roof had created a situation where the water, especially the snow, when it accumulates, it was seeping through the walls. And we didn't have the regular, I would say, gutters, that kind of extending out. It was kind of a slot gutters or the tarp gutters going out to the end of the garage.
And the new plans call for a gable roof,
Correct,
and that's,
correct. And that was the problem because the pitch was not correct.
okay.
If I understand, that's what they told me.
And that gable roof, which again it's been framed already, that has eaves on both sides, is that
Correct, correct.
Now, and you've become aware that the eave on the southerly side,
Yes.
which is the side closest to the
Correct.
property line,
As you mentioned
that
to
the eave
me.
actually extends over the property line and encroaches onto your neighbor's property.
Yes,
And you'll understand that you're going to have to remove that eave from
Yes.
that side of the garage
Yes.
to eliminate that encroachment.
yes,
And you agree that you'll do that?
I do. Not me, the contractor.
Right, I understand. Okay, and it was pointed out in the memo from the planning department, Mr. Scabilia, a concern about rainwater given the fact that you're so close to the property line, a concern to ensure that appropriate gutters, leaders, or whatever needed to be designed in order to ensure that rainwater not run onto
Yes.
either neighbor's property to the side or the rear.
Yes.
And you agree to,
They have already done some drainage on the side that takes it to my property, but not the leaders yet.
okay, but you agree to.
Of course.
Make sure that you'll do whatever is required to make sure that water does not.
Yes.
Run onto neighbor's property.
Correct.
What kind of siding are you proposing for the new garage?
Matching actually the house, nothing different.
What kind of material?
We were deciding vinyl or cement board, but white planks that matches that.
Okay. And what about material for the roof?
It would be, just suggestion was still the pitch may not be as enough. Asphalt wasn't suggested, so we're going with steel roof.
And are you did you have an overhead, sort of a standard overhead garage door on the old
Yes.
garage? And is that what you're proposing
Same
for the new
concept.
garage? Okay, I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Questions from members of the board? Ms. Harris?
Yes. It doesn't appear that the carport is on any of the surveys. When was that constructed?
It was done actually on the original 1995, it's an overhang, it was there. But for some reason, on the last one we have, they did not draw the overhang, but there was an overhang in 1995 drawing. It was done back in, I think in 1980s by Schweppe, Jay Schweppe.
Okay, and that's going to remain in place?
It's the same, yes, nothing has changed. It's just that some of the fencing that was broken, the lattice, they fixed those.
Okay. And the slab of the existing garage was not replaced?
No, the slab is the same slab, they just increased the height. Just the end of the, I think the garage, if I'm correct, that kind of to the shed that kind of bends in, for some reason had a little bend in going in. I guess because of encroachment to the end. That part they made shorter and just made it straight instead of being bent, curved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions from members of the board? I have several questions which I'm trying to understand the surveys in the context of your testimony. The foundation on the rear of the garage, was that where the shed was? Was that at the edge of the garage?
The foundation, sorry. The foundation of the garage?
Yes.
The foundation of the garage, it was up till the, I think, up till the shed.
Okay, and then how big was the shed?
The shed, if you look at the old, I think this is the old survey, yeah. That basically imagine that plus maybe half of that, because I think it's about 4 feet, maybe. The extent of the garage to the end of the property.
Okay, and I guess that's where I'm struggling with why you're proposing the rear to be 1.25 from the rear property line if the rear of the former garage minus the shed was over 4 feet away from the property line.
Not exactly sure 4 feet, but you mean why extend it? Why extend it to that part, or?
Well, I mean, as your testimony in the old survey seems to indicate the shed was very close to the property line.
It was basically to the end of the
Right,
property line, yes.
And I think you just indicated you thought the shed was about 4.5 feet
I
wide.
don't know, to be honest.
But, I mean, it clearly wasn't 1 foot wide.
Oh, no, correct,
So
correct.
I'm
So
not
they extended,
understanding.
yes, They did extend it to about 1.8 feet away from, this is one the survey that they saw.
If the foundation was 4.5, 5 feet away from the property line, why are you extending it closer to the property line?
In the rear.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Not on the side. It's a good question. Yeah, I understand. It was basically just maybe to close that gap. I'm not sure. You know, that was the whole idea. And the garage was too small, to be honest with you. It was, a car would hardly fit in.
And how long are you proposing the new garage to be?
I think it's on there. It's 21 feet.
The,
Right? Yeah.
and in terms of the side yard,
Yes.
the old survey shows the corner of the garage, if
Yes.
I'm reading it correctly, as being 0.28 feet away, and now you're proposing at 0.5 feet. I'm trying to understand how you're gaining that extra couple of inches.
Gaining or?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you mean toward the end? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. It was toward this part, right?
Question is, this is showing point 0.28 feet, the old survey, and the new survey is 0.5 feet or 6 inches.
So basically, we're losing, right?
No, you're gaining 3 inches in terms of the distance between the
Oh, you mean-
garage and the neighbor's
In the
property.
Oh, I see. Why do that?
Well, if the wall is lining up with the foundation, it would logically be the same distance.
Well, that section, as I mentioned, I think he extended more backwards into the shed. That was the shed, not actually the car
But
garage.
that would put it even closer to the proper line, because the garage is angled towards the side
Correct.
property line.
But you have to consider that section of the shed actually curves backwards, did not go.
No, the shed was set back a little from the property line according to the side property line, according to the old survey. It didn't go to the full length of the garage.
Right. So it's kind of bend in, right? See, that part, I don't know. I honestly, I can't answer you that question. The question is, why gain more
Well,
footage?
by extending it out, is it not go further into the survey?
The other question, which is probably one you can't answer, is normally we have people coming in saying they want the garage to encroach because it lines up with the driveway. Here, this has this peculiar twist
I know.
to the south that, which is what exasperates the side yard setback. And
Well, the issue was to try to match the angulation of what the garage was before. I think that was the contractor's idea.
other questions from members of the board?
I have a question. Mr. Chairman, did the contractor, I guess, figure another way to angle the garage to match the property line? Because
It's impossible because the property line is an angle already. So basically, the garage will end up into the backyard.
Into the back.
Basically, the house is straight, and the garage matches the house. If you do that, I think engineering-wise, it's not recommended. The garage would end up in the yard.
Yeah. Okay.
And just so we're clear, the issue of it ending up in the yard is because it would encroach on the existing patio, or?
No, it's basically, I think they follow the structure of the house. I think that was the only reason.
Okay. I mean, I think it would make sense for it to follow the line of the driveway. If you're parking and
Yeah.
driving into the garage, you'd want it to line up with
Yeah,
the
I mean, the
with the driveway.
carport seems to follow the line of the driveway, and then suddenly you get to the garage and you have to curve to the right. Other questions from members of the board? Okay, are there any members of the audience who have any comments, testimony, statements about the application? Okay, come forward and give your name and be sworn in.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Jody Rose Bronner, 83 Plymouth Street, Montclair.
Okay, can you press the button on the, those green lights?
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
So I just thank you for the opportunity to address the Board of Adjustment this evening. I'm appearing to formally enter my concerns on the record as it relates to the application for the construction of a garage at 7 Clinton Avenue and the variances that would permit the same. I have been a resident of Montclair and Mr. Foroughi's neighbor for 17 years. Our children grew up together. We've enjoyed neighborhood functions together. We've dined at each other's homes, and we have maintained a cordial relationship all these years until recently. I'm here this evening not to obstruct Mr. and Mrs. Foroughi's plans to improve the value and enjoyment of their home, but rather to express my concern regarding the work that has been done and to highlight areas that may adversely impact my property should this application be approved. 7 Clinton shares its south-facing boundary along its entire length with 83 Plymouth Street, which is the home I share with my husband, mother, 2 of my 3 boys, and our family dog, Ginger. Along this boundary on my side is the north face of my garage, a driveway, and a portion of my tennis court. Montclair Code Section 347-45C, subsection 1 requires a 10-foot setback along this boundary. Mr. Foroughi is seeking a 6-inch variance. Mr. Foroughi demolished and constructed a new structure off permit that appears to sit on the property line at the southeast corner at its foundation and is over the property line at its roof line. Mr. Foroughi seems to have tried to leverage grandfathering rules to allow this work to move forward. My understanding is once the original structure, which was slightly smaller, was demolished, there is no longer a grandfathering option that can be considered, and the new structure must and should adhere to existing Montclair zoning and building codes. As you consider this application for a 6-inch variance along this boundary, my primary concerns are there was no architectural review performed with field conditions prior to work beginning, and as such, the higher elevation of this structure and its new roof design will direct water onto my garage foundation and tennis court. Similarly, any drainage systems put in place will empty into a space that rests between the 2 properties. At its widest point, there is just over 8 feet between this structure and my garage foundation. Again, if a 6-inch variance is granted, runoff will mostly be on my side of the boundary. There is a PSE&G utility pole that is accessed from my side of the property line, and the new structure is touching this pole, again on my side of the boundary, making utility work on the transformer over the structure more difficult. The new design has left Mr. and Mrs. Foroughi and any subcontractors they employ with no way to access the south and east face of the structure without infringing on my property. All property markers after the most recent survey have been removed, so there is no way to determine clearly where the boundary is once work continues. Mr. Foroughi would prefer to have me rely on his determination of where the boundary line is. Again, I'd like to reiterate that it is not mine nor my husband's intention to restrict this work, but rather to ensure that if Mr. Foroughi would like to construct a larger garage, that he make the extension on his property and allow for reasonable clearance from the boundary. 6 inches in my novice estimation is simply not sufficient. Further, it is, if this variance is approved, the existing structure should be re-inspected as it needs to be redesigned and reconstructed since it would not be within the parameters of the new variance. I thank you for your time this evening and happy to leave a hard copy of my comments for your further review. Should I turn off?
Any questions, Ms. Harris?
I do. Have you experienced, before the garage was demolished, did you experience issues with drainage or water on your property
I wouldn't
from
say
this
it was
garage?
bad runoff. I, on my side, installed rocks to manage that, to pea gravel to manage it so that it wouldn't. But the garage hasn't been used the entire time that I've lived there, so I don't think it was functional. And the downspouts were in disrepair, so the water would just drip down. So that's why I had to put the pea gravel in to manage it on my side.
And there's no fence separating your properties?
There's no fence. It's very tight. It's very tight.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the audience who have questions, testimony, statements, anything you want to say about the application? Mr. Chairman, one thing I didn't ask was the Historic Preservation Commission had a number of recommendations. Are you willing to adhere to all of those?
I was going to actually address those, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. We've got the HPC's memo. We also have a copy of the consultant's report. And we've addressed some of those comments already, but I think to make it clear, the applicant agrees to comply with all of the comments in those two documents, with the exception of the comments regarding the roof. HPC is recommending that it continue to be a flat roof. We're proposing a gable roof for the reasons my client mentioned. And the second item that we're not prepared to comply with is a request that the garage doors be swinging doors rather than a traditional overhead door. We're proposing a traditional overhead door, which is what was previously there. And, you know, this is set back pretty far from the street, and also it's a one-car garage. The family has more than one car, so there's likely to be a car blocking those doors, so there's really not much of a visual effect from the street. But all the other comments are acceptable.
I think the recommendation was that it appear like swinging doors, but not actually function like swinging doors.
You know, I think there's an additional cost factor to that, because they'd have to be
Custom.
Yeah. And again, my only comment is, again, this is set back pretty far from the street. You know, you've got part of it's kind of shielded by the carport that's there, and it's and there's also likely to be at least one car parked in front of that garage door. So, the applicant would prefer not to do that, but in all other respects would comply with the requirements of the HPC. And if I could just briefly respond to the concerns of the neighbor, we've already indicated that we will make sure that appropriate action is taken so that any stormwater is not diverted onto the neighbor's property, and that can be subject to approval by the board's engineer. And the other comment, I think related to the PSE&G utility pole, which according to the neighbor, the garage was touching, but I don't think that's true. If you look at photo or figure 10 and Mr. Scaglioni's report on page 8, you can see the utility pole in the rear of the property, and the garage is at least a foot away from it. Maybe the eave is touching it. You know, in fairness, you can't really tell because of the tarp, but the eave is going to be removed, as we've already indicated. You know, and then the final comment would be, I mean, this is an unusual situation with, you know, this board's used to, you know, older garages in this town being constructed very close to the property. I don't know what the history is here, but this garage, the previous garage, was very close to both the rear lot line and the side lot line. We're still very close, but we're a little further away in both the rear yard and the side yard from what previously existed. And I'd also just point out, in terms of any detriment to the neighbors, I mean, as you you can see from the photo 10 that I just mentioned, you know, this is way tucked in the corner, and the neighbor's property, they have a beautiful, large property in the corner there. It's almost, I think, 4/5 of an acre with a tennis court, which is back in the tennis court adjoins the area where the garage is and the utility pole. There's a pool. It's a large property. It's like, no detriment to the neighbor, and it's a condition that's existed for at least 27 years based upon the surveys that have been provided. So, you know, for those reasons, you know, I would ask that the board approve the variances as requested.
Yeah.
So, in considering what was stated before and how the previous garage lined up with the house, but since you're building from scratch, did you even consider rotating the garage to line up with the driveway so that it doesn't encroach on the setbacks? Because if you were to line it up with the garage, you'd increase that south
East. But the idea was, to be honest with you, to replace what we had before.
I understand, but since you're starting from scratch, you could swing that back corner away from the pole into your backyard a little bit, but it would improve the encroachment that you have on your neighbor. Was that even considered?
No.
Again, the intent was not to rebuild the garage. The intent was originally.
Yeah, but you're there now. You're there
Well,
now.
And again,
So now that you have this condition, you can consider that design.
obviously, it's something that's doable, but, you know, at considerable expense, given the fact that the structure's already been built, framing is up, and again, it's virtually the same location that it's been in for many years in an area that has really no impact on the neighbor.
Okay. I think I am reading the board correctly, but they can correct me if I'm wrong. I think if you want us to act on the application as proposed, I think you're going to have a problem getting a majority of votes for the board. I think that probably a majority of the board would be inclined to approve variances. Then I'll do my concerns. I would be much more comfortable if there were something before us showing how the stormwater was going to be handled, rather than just saying, go off and do something and make the engineer, because yes, there are engineering issues associated, but there's also impacts on neighboring property owners where how that's handled. I am puzzled at this point as to why the rear wall of the garage is not 4 to 5 feet away from the rear property
We could
line.
do that. I mean,
Because
I can ask the contractor.
okay, well, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, Alan, I think I want to send you, and I would encourage you to talk to your neighbor who you at least used to have good relationships with. Given you're not exactly matching the side yard setback and moving a little further, I'm not sure what the constraints are that would preclude you from moving it somewhat further. I mean, we have fairly consistently insisted on, and, you know, as Mr. Trembulac is aware, you know, we probably get one of these every 2 months of someone reconstructing, replacing a garage, and we've been requiring them to keep 3 feet just to provide a manageable area that can be maintained. I mean, here, you know, with at least the pre-existing setbacks, there was some difficulty. On the side, it wasn't so bad because it was wider, but I would be more comfortable with seeing stormwater having the setbacks further, or a much better explanation as to why not. I am not seeing any justification for not having the rear wall of the garage, at least as far as the rear wall of the original garage minus the shed was located. like to see the stormwater. The roof design, I'm not inherently hung up on the Historic Preservation Commission, but part of the stormwater, I am going to want to see how that, the runoff from the roof is being directed away from the neighbor, both on the side and the rear, how that's being impacted. So, I mean, Mr. Tremblack, it's up to you and your client as to whether you want to proceed at this point. And board members, if you want to do something different, speak up. Or return next month and, submit plans and show the plans in advance to your neighbor.
Sure.
And have a discussion. You may not resolve things, but at least show her and her husband what you're doing, and she might have constructive suggestions in terms of how it's impacting her property.
That makes sense to me, Mr. Chairman. Did you have a question?
No, I just one point that my neighbor mentioned about the water going to her property. Her property is actually all the water because it's higher level. All the property is actually going to our property.
We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, we're not going to have a discussion tonight.
Yeah.
That's a discussion,
Yeah.
and that's something I think when you're coming up with a stormwater proposal, you need to,
Sure.
I don't want formal contours, but something to indicate what the relative slope is. Okay, so, Mr. Tremblack, you need to affirmatively state.
Yes, I was about to, yes. In light of those comments, Mr. Chairman, we'd ask the board to carry this application to its next meeting so we can address the board's concerns.
What meeting will we schedule that to?
The next meeting is February 15th,
Right.
so we could put it on.
Are you
as
going to be able
old
to get
business.
plans in time and?
Well, I think so, yes. If not, we'll have to further postpone it.
And you'll consent to an extension of time if we need it?
Of course, yes.
So this matter is being carried until our meeting on February 15th, 7:30 this room. I'm not sure where you'll be on the agenda at that point because we have at least one other application we carried to the 15th, but you'll get the agenda and get the plans in.
Thank you
There'll be
very
no
much.
further notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And then, how'd you get the overhead view? I don't remember seeing that.
So you just have to see, check the thread, right? And then you come back, and then the other layers.
It sound like,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever paid attention to
Yeah,
that.
then the freedom is
Okay. I will have to check that out. Thank you.
The next application of that is Bridget, Mastrogiovanni, and Daniel Leo. This is an application for variance to construct an addition to a single-family dwelling located at 11 Friendship Place. The property is located in the R2 two-family zone district and is designated on the township tax maps as Lot 11 of Block 3301. The proposal requires a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-45C1 to allow an 8.5-inch west side yard setback where 6 feet is required. Proposal requires a variance from Montclair Code Section 347-25E to allow a building coverage of 28.1% where a maximum of 25% coverage is permitted. Are taxes paid, and is the notice in order?
Yes.
Come up.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, do you mind if we take these two chairs for our architects?
Well, we need, the microphone needs, for the architects? Yeah, you
Yeah,
can bring them
you
over,
may.
yep. Okay, while you're getting set up, let's swear in the applicants. Would you both raise your right hands? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your names and addresses, please.
Bridget, Mastrogiovanni at 11 Friendship Place, Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay, you have one or both witnesses going to testify, both individuals?
I also swear, my name is Daniel Leo, and I also live at 11 Country Place.
All right, the architect, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Jose Alcala, 70 Stonebridge Road, Montclair, New Jersey.
Okay, and you're a registered architect in the state of New Jersey, is that correct? Yes. And are you also going to testify?
Yes.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board? Name and address.
Joseph Shand, 67 Forest Street, Montclair.
Okay, are you, which capacity are you testifying?
Project manager.
Okay, thank you.
So whoever's going to start.
My name's Daniel Leo. This is my wife, Bridget, Mastrogiovanni. We live at 11 Friendship Place with our 2 children, 2 cats and a dog. We moved there in 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, with full intention to do some renovation. At the time, we had moved from Bloomfield, where we had renovated an old Victorian house from a dilapidated state into a gem of a state, and moved to Montclair for the school districts and various other reasons. For a number of reasons, including a life-threatening illness that came precipitously to me, and the pandemic and its effect on my business. We have been long delayed in this process, but we have a 2-bedroom house, 2 children, 12-year-old, soon to be 13 girl, who shares a bedroom with her 8-year-old brother, and one small, awkward bathroom that is on an existing addition. The bathroom, there's no bathtub, and it's a narrow, funny structure. You would never design a bathroom like that. But we're living with it now, but it's not a permanent solution, and this is we see it as our permanent home. We'd like to grow the house in order to accommodate our family, which is growing, and
in a proportional way.
In a proportional way, we're proposing what we think is a modest addition, and in doing so, we think that it is helping to. Well, we think it's nice, and we think it'll help preserve the historic value of the original structure, which is kind of marred by the existing additions presently. So I'll let our architects, our lovely architects, speak to that. But that's sort of where we're at. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we're trying to create more proportional space for our family. The design that we've worked with, we think, is right. It's not too assuming from the front or the back or the side. And we love the area that we live in. We love our block, the community, and we're looking to stay there for a while.
So the addition that's being proposed is just under 200 square feet. It's a modest addition to the rear of the house. It includes a bedroom, a much-needed bedroom, the 3rd bedroom in the house. We consider that the master suite. And the only bathroom in the house is on the 1st floor, and we're expanding that slightly to be code compliant. Right now, it's not a code compliant bathroom. So that would be the bathroom that's shared by all 4 residents in the home. In doing so, we are encroaching on the side setback and on the maximum building coverage, slightly, the building coverage. We're increasing the building coverage by about 3%. And the side yard setback, it's already in a non-compliant lot. So we are just proposing to extend along the property line to the southeast, extend it along the same line, which is about 8.5 inches from the property line, and continue that back into the rear yard. Joseph Shand, he can take you through the particulars of the design decisions that were made.
So I will bring up the proposed plans and elevations.
You need the mic. There's a mic somewhere.
turned on since the refrigerator.
How does this sound? Yeah? Okay, so A 1.0 has our zoning analysis. As you can see, the two variances that we're looking for are highlighted. The proposed site plan below that, the existing survey on the left-hand side of the drawing, and then a locus plan in the center showing our 200-foot radius. A 1.1 delivers all of our existing conditions. Existing first floor, second floor, and roof plan, existing elevations. I will zoom in. Here we go. So on the existing house, the original portion of the house is this square here. The existing kitchen with the low sloped roof off the back, and then the secondary addition off of that, which has the code compliant, building code compliant bathroom. Those are not original to the structure. On A 1.2, our proposed conditions. So as Jose was describing, we're extending both sides of the house into the rear yard. Our bedroom, we're proposing the third bedroom. This will be the primary bedroom for Bridget and Danny. A new entryway off the side of the house. We are proposing to rebuild the side entry steps. The existing steps are in pretty rough shape, not code compliant. It's missing half the railing, the balusters, so it desperately needs to be repaired. A much needed full-size bathroom, modestly sized, but full-size bathroom off of this entryway and right off of the bathroom. And then we will be renovating the kitchen as well. So all of the work is really happening at the back of the property. Everything in the front is essentially staying the same. Our proposed elevations are highlighted here in this off-tone gray. So you'll see we're using the existing kitchen shell, so kitchen wall and the low-sloped roof. And this is for budgetary reasons. We just cannot fit in the budget to rebuild this structure. So the new bathroom and the new bedroom, the geometry of this proposed work is trying to tie into that existing condition as best as we can. It's also responding to other lifestyle quality issues, such as we want to maintain the views from the second floor bedroom on in the back of the house so that they can maintain their view to the backyard. And then the geometry, the peak of this off-centered gable is aligning with the bathroom wall below that separates the bathroom and the bedroom, so here. So what that's going to allow Danny and Bridget to get are some pretty nice vaulted ceilings in their bedroom and the bathroom. It's going to bring in more light, feel a little bit more open because it is such a, it's a modest size addition. So we want to really capitalize on making that feel as nice as we can. I think that's about it.
No.
Question, Ms. Harris?
Did you consider sliding the addition to the east? Let's call it east, so that you don't have the side yard setback issue. It looks like it'll still work with your plan in terms of the bedrooms.
We did consider that.
Yes, we did consider that. What ultimately happened was that it was going to impact more of the house and be a little bit more costly to go off the east side. impacting the existing foundation, as well as their access to the basement. It was also going to impact how much light can come into the kitchen, because we're essentially, covering up that east side wall of the kitchen. So they'd be losing a little bit more windows there.
Where is the entrance to the basement? Is it only the Bilco doors?
The Bilco doors, that's correct. And the other kind of serious consideration was it was going to cut into the existing driveway too much, and we'd lose the two-car parking as well.
Well, I'm not suggesting that you move it all the way to the driveway, but even a few feet. I understand the existing condition is that the house is pretty much on the lot line, but I don't think it would be a good idea to continue that if you have the option to move it over so that there is more space.
Well, I think it would create an awkward, dead end in the backyard, 6-foot wide dead end to the existing structure, which is unusable. At the very least, we can use more of the space on the driveway side than we can on that dead end corner.
That was our concern as homeowners and fellow neighbors. It's all of our neighbors' garages are right on the property lines. The neighborhood is basically built before these rules, and its history predates that. And we felt that an awkward spot like that is less neighborly, frankly. I think I'd rather have my neighbors' well-maintained structure on the property than an awkward, difficult to maintain, strange space.
Other questions from members of the board? Mr. Church?
The extension is just going to be for that one bedroom?
Yes, and a slight extension to the bathroom.
The bathroom, okay.
Yep.
It's, I see on your plans you have a remodeled kitchen, and so that's not going to affect the building structure itself. It's all going to be internal?
Correct. In the kitchen you're talking
The
about.
kitchen?
Yes, the kitchen is all internal.
There's no bump outs or anything
No.
coming with that. Okay, thank you.
Other questions from members of the board?
Have you seen the HPC's report regarding the roof line? Did you
Yes.
get anything to simplify the roof?
Yeah, their comments were not unanimous. Some were opposed to it. One, John Reimnitz agreed that it was a good solution to the profile of the roof and the roof line. So, again, it was a recommendation, but it was not unanimous.
So you're not taking that recommendation, you're just gonna stick with the design that you have?
We'd like to stick with this design because it satisfies some of the interior requirements that we're looking for. And it's not visible from the street.
I would add that we really are taking the recommendation. The recommendation is to consider it. It's something that we have considered. The gable roof is obviously a first thought when you're thinking about this, but there were kind of hard-fought reasons why we went away from that. And when it was brought up again and asked to be reconsidered, we're not being stubborn. We really did reconsider it. It's like, can we do this? Clearly, there are reasons why you might want to do that, but it's not the right move here. So their recommendation is to consider it, and we really are faithfully considering it. We don't feel like it's the right move.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Mr. Vieira?
The roof leaders of the addition, where is that going to?
There's one, you agreed to.
Yeah. So as currently designed, there's a cricket roof that centers on the existing kitchen and then the new off-centered gable. And we're currently showing that it splits the water in both directions. We understand some of the concerns the HPC had, we've already discussed. And we feel is a pretty acceptable solution to just redirect all the water to the east side of the house. We think that's totally doable.
One more question. The wood fence, is that your fence or is that the neighbor's fence?
Which one?
Which
Some of the
part?
fences are neighbors, some of it's ours. Which
The one on the, on north side, this is, it goes from the neighbor's garage and it turns in. But it's on the concrete, not on the grass, which I would have thought it was on your side.
Right, that is the neighbor's fence, I believe, is that right?
I'm not sure. It faces as if
Where's
it's.
the back of it?
Yeah.
It faces as if it's ours.
Right.
But we, that's.
But it
that's-
ties into the neighbor's fence as well. It's
Right.
Yes.
I think we basically we
Share.
share that fence line, yeah.
Okay,
And it
because
butts into their
it's
garage.
turned to attach to your house, and is that gonna remain with the addition, or was any changes gonna be with that fence on that side?
I think we would probably speak to them and basically come to an agreement, we're friendly with them.
Negotiate with
We
them.
Yeah.
negotiate with them, whatever's necessary.
Okay, thank you.
That jut into your property, that's gonna be away from the addition, right? In other words, the addition's gonna be in front of that.
In front of the fence?
No, it's where your building is, and the fence is on, is that coming right over on an angle? I can't tell.
It
Not
turns,
sure what the
it
question-
turns, it's a corner, it's a small corner. The fence to the structure?
Yeah. Okay. So that's gonna remain, unless you can negotiate something with your neighbor.
Which I'm sure we can. He's very friendly.
All right.
I'm sorry, I'm missing what the question is.
Will the fence remain? Or
Well,
will we?
Right, the structure will be built
In front,
forward.
yeah.
Right, forward. So there's going to be a space between the fence and the structure. Likely, the fence will be removed on the side of the structure and then jog back in at the new addition.
Right, where that little small piece is, likely we
Right.
would just move it right up to the end of the new structure. But
Another
yeah.
question. That blocks your view out to the street then? Or no? Or if you went down that side of your house, on that side by the fence, you could walk right to the street?
Yes, that's the neighbor's
neighbor's
driveway.
Okay, all right.
Other questions from board members?
Just looking at figure 11 from the board secretary's report, that curb that the fence is on, is that on your property? Does the property slope here? What is? Yeah, what is the concrete at the bottom of the fence, and why is
Yeah.
it there?
So the structure right now is 8.5 inches from the property line. So it looks like that fence, or that curb might be the edge, the one edge could be the 8.5, but the other part of the concrete curb must be on the neighbor's side. It's unclear the history of that curb.
And will that be removed as part of this addition?
It's not intended, no.
Realistically, it probably would be, but because it's on the
Founded.
neighbor's property, that it's really their call, but we would work with them to do that if that's what they wanted to do.
What kind of foundation are you proposing for this extension?
It will be crawl space. Would be,
So you'd have footings along?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a good chance this might have to go. It looks like it's right.
yeah, I think it provides some water management for the neighbor, for their driveway. So it's a curb for their driveway, I believe is what it was there for.
Okay, but I'm asking, when you excavate, will this be able to remain in place, or will it have to come out?
That's a good question. We don't know what's underneath it. So if it has some foundation that spreads beyond what we see there, then yes, we'll have to deal with that at the time of exploration.
Thank you.
Other questions from members of the board? First, I want to deal with something in the planner's report, and then we'll go off. What is the distance from the fence that blocks your driveway to the sidewalk?
Sorry, say that one more time?
Okay, so let's start. The fence that goes parallel to the street in the middle of the driveway, there doesn't appear to be a gate for that fence.
It's a double swinging gate.
Yeah.
So access is to the garage with a car.
I want to return to what Ms. Harris was asking you in terms of shifting it over, but first I want to understand your plans a little better in terms of currently there's a stair, a small porch area leading to a back entrance to the kitchen. How is that going to be changed with the new addition?
So it's in a slightly new location to better align with the new side door. And then...
So the old one will be removed?
Old one will be entirely removed. So all new framing and then finishes.
The old one's falling apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but is the door staying in the same location?
That's moving slightly to accommodate the addition.
Okay. When you say moving slightly, how far in which direction?
So the addition, as you'll see in the first floor plan, we are aligning the exterior walls. So the front door or that side door is, obviously moving out the 3.5 feet to be with the exterior wall of the kitchen. And then it's moving towards the back of the property by about 12 inches.
One of the things I'm trying to, the current rear wall of the first floor, is that remaining as is?
Yes, so the current rear wall of the kitchen is mostly being removed, but we are keeping about 2.5 feet of it by the new side door. And then there'll be new structural posts aligning with the existing kitchen roof structure above. And we're going to keep all the kitchen roof structure as is.
But you're substantially removing the existing rear wall of the house on the first floor?
And that is to accommodate the larger bathroom. Yeah. So as you can see, now we can fit a full-size 5-foot bathtub in the bathroom. It squeezes the kitchen by that much space, but now they get a working bathroom.
Okay. And I'm going to ask, and the reason the bedroom can't shift over 5.5 feet, so you're keeping the 6-foot setback, is why?
The property is very small. The backyard is very small as is. And honestly, we feel that that's a waste of space, and it creates an awkward space that's difficult to manage between the properties.
Well, easier to manage 6 feet than to manage half a foot. And I guess, and just in terms of, I'm not saying you're losing much usable space because you have the new stairs going down to the driveway, and there isn't much you can do there in that space between the addition and the driveway anyway.
It does squeeze the driveway a bit, and you're going to have a wall coming real close to the driveway in order to accommodate the size of that bedroom and keep within the setbacks.
And it takes the kitchen light. It's a very small house, but one of the really great things about it, that it makes it really livable, is the eastern exposure. Waking up, we're all early risers, so we see the sunrise together almost every morning, and it's fantastic. So I don't want to lose that if we don't have to.
But how would moving the addition affect the light? If you've got windows above the sink and windows, yeah, you've
Well,
got windows above the
I
sink.
think part
so
of
is
our reason, because we've exhausted so many possibilities where we want to, with Mad Labs, it would also suggest and require that we potentially rework the foundation on the existing structure and move the basement access from the exterior. And that was something that we were both like, was too costly to get into.
It doesn't appear that the access to the basement, though, is near the addition, so how would this affect the access?
Well, you're describing basically just sliding the addition 6 feet east. So
Yes.
On plan, just sliding it east 6 feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think one of the other challenges with doing that is the bathroom where it is located right now, we want to, for budgetary reasons, reuse the existing plumbing as much as possible. It's going to make it quite challenging to slide it over 6 feet and then accommodate a new side entry, a new bathroom, run new supply and return lines, the stack, to accommodate the 6-foot setback. Right now, the bathroom is aligning with where it currently is right now.
But is the new bathroom completely in the existing house? It looks like from your proposed floor plan, the only part of the addition is the bedroom. So we're just suggesting you slide the bedroom over, not the bathroom.
It's in rough shape back there. They're going to have to rebuild the foundation.
The existing additions are falling apart. The bathroom presently is held up in one area by a diagonal 2x4 underneath. This work needs to be done expeditiously, and my concern is that you're making great points.
I'm just trying to understand
My concern is that we won't be able to do
how-
the work. That when we moved into the house, we wanted to do something much grander, but we need to do this to keep our family there, and I'm concerned that we actually won't be able to do the work because we're pretty much maxed out on our budget as is. That's one of the main concerns.
Let me, I was accepting what you were saying in terms of wanting to redo the bathroom and letting that part stay with the existing setback, but I am struggling with the bedroom part of this as to our justifying, the 9-inch or so setback that's continuing, I think in some of the problems which we're discussing in terms of the curbing on the neighbor's property, you're going to have to deal with that to some degree with the repair, however you want to categorize it for the bathroom, but, I understand you're wanting to have a fully functional bathroom there. And where, and I understand, just given the narrow width of the lot, moving it over the full 6 feet is getting close to the driveway just based on where the 10-foot setback for the other side is. But, as we indicated on the prior application, we've generally been requiring 3 feet to have an area that you can maintain, and, I think there's nothing we can do with the existing house, and, that's what it is, but to continue that back, and, there's no real relationship between the bedroom and the kitchen. Yes, there's a door, but that isn't a problem locating the door connecting it. And it, as far as I can tell, that would not impact your new entry that you're proposing there, and doesn't affect the entry, wouldn't affect the entry to the basement. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing how it would adversely impact any of that.
It would be more expensive, right? And it would be, and
could
it would
be more
encroach on the
expensive.
two-car rule of the driveway, so we'd be asking for a different.
But I want to bring back the discussion about, even with the 3-foot setback, that becomes rendered unusable space for the kids to play in. They have much more opportunity to play on shared driveway and backyard than have this 3-foot dead end, not to mention the security issues that can come from a 3-foot wide dead end with a tall fence right next to it. I think that's,
But
It would be a concern for us. Honestly, that's a concern for us.
But the fence at the rear of your property is your fence?
Yeah, it's on the property by law.
So I'm not really understanding, in order to, assuming the shared fence with the neighbor to the west, is not sure how anyone is getting to that area other than going up your driveway and around, and that's a problem regardless of.
To be honest, my neighbor's garage, our neighbor to the west, their garage is abuts our property, so it's out of code. We're fine with it, but it's low, and there's an apartment complex behind us. People come and go all the time. You could easily put a small ladder or step ladder on the other side of our fence, get onto our neighbor's garage and garage roof, come right. I mean, it's in order to really protect our property like that, we would have to ask you for a variance for a very tall fence that we don't want to do. It's not all. It's a pretty urban area of town, and it's not all that secure in that way. It's a real concern. We have little kids, and we're trying to maximize our backyard to be like a functional backyard as much as possible. We'd like to reclaim as much of the driveway that's in front of the current garage, which is more of a shed, as possible, which is not indicated in these plans, but that's something that makes this viable for us, making the backyard, which is shaped, shaped north to south now, giving it a little more of an east to west aspect. Moving the bedroom to the east does infringe upon that to a certain extent, and does make it a little bit less of a viable backyard. It's already a very small backyard, but we think this is the best way. But we hear your points. The houses in the area tend to abut the property line, and so we hope that you'll allow us this.
Okay. Returning to the recommendations of the Historic Preservation Commission, they recommend, and to some extent what I'm proposing solves it, but incorporate a reveal to help visually distinguish the original portion of the house from the addition. Are you okay with doing that?
Yes.
And they want to review the cut sheets and the manufacturer's product information for the windows, doors.
No problem.
Any other questions from members of the board? Are there, even though this is a formality, are there any members of the audience who are present who could be hiding behind the chairs, who have any testimony, questions, statements, anything you want to say about the application? Please come forward. Seeing no one has anything further, you wish to add before we discuss and vote on the application? We'll start with Mr. Church.
I'm generally in favor of the application. However, I'd like to withhold my recommendation till I hear discussion with the board.
Mr. Simon?
I'm generally in favor. I think they did the best to maximize the space and keeping in line, and I think shifting it over, frankly, with the board on that side, and it does create dead space, so I think they did their best to create the best usable space for the yard and keep in line about coming up with design that kind of detracts from the lines of the house, so I'm in favor.
Mr. Deroui?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm also in favor of the application. I was struggling a little bit with the, I guess with the consideration of moving it 3 feet, but I can see that, why you didn't do that. Obviously, taking away space from the yard and creating that dead space on the west side. So yeah, I think you've tried your best to accommodate their the proposal, and I think it's great that you're also making the bathroom compliant. It's good.
It's the only bathroom. So.
Yeah, and it's the only bathroom, so I'm in favor. Thanks.
Ms. Harris?
I'm in favor of the building coverage variance, but I am still struggling with the side yard setback of 8.5 inches. I think maybe not the full 6 feet, but I think the addition could be moved over with minimal detriment to the proposed floor plan, and the house will still function as planned. So I'm not in favor of the side yard setback variance.
So it's like difficult for us, as you can imagine, who sat here and listened to a bunch of meetings. So our concern is like it's close to the line, as you and I discussed. But like maybe 10 other people that bought your house later down the line want to expand, put a second level on that. And since we've kind of made since we're putting it so close to the line, we're going to go down the same situation. I think because you can put a second level on that sooner or later. You know what I'm saying, and go out in that direction. So that is a struggle. I understand your.
We would have to come back to you at that point, correct?
I hope it's a future tenant sometime, but yes,
Well, we don't
or
intend
future.
to have future
Yes,
tenants.
no.
We hope that.
But I
how
just.
this goes. We
I'm
hope
just.
that this is us.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there is precedent that can be set, and that's us being the board is trying to limit those in the future. So that's where the concern is for me in that way. I understand. I understand where you guys are coming from, a family in this town wanting to expand and wanting to stay here, and that's kind of very important. Conflicted as well. I'm going to vote yes for this, for you guys' future in this town and stuff like that, and condemn anyone who comes to me about this second story in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
In favor of the lot coverage variance given the small size of the lot and this small size of the house. I'm not convinced on.
It's not picking you up.
Not convinced on the full side yard variance. Traditionally, when people come in for a second floor on top of a first floor with an existing encroachment, we approve it, and our choice with that, there wouldn't be a practical way to move the second floor addition over, would be to either deny it or approve it on where we put the first floor. I'm not really understanding the argument in terms of the usable backyard. However you look at it, the area, if you keep it where it is, the area on the east side between the addition and the stairs, it's not usable in and of itself. I mean, that's basically going out to the driveway. It's, you know, it's really the remainder of the yard behind the addition that provides the most usable space. And it's,
That's where my son plays soccer and rides his bike. And hula hoop, my daughter hula hoops.
but it's, I think, going to be a little different with, you know, now there's no addition there, so the stairs are there and everything's open. You're going to now have the addition and a much smaller area between whichever location of the addition and the driveway is, you know, that's not going to be the most usable area. It's, just, you know, let me, you know, in terms of the Historic Preservation Commission, I agree with you on the roof. I mean, it's not visible from the street, and its visibility from your neighbors on either side is, can't imagine they would notice, care, or whatever. I think we should do conditions 4 and 5, and you indicated you're willing to do that. Those are the incorporate a reveal and send the specifications to the HPC. We should, the stormwater should be directed so it is not impacting the adjacent properties. That's one of the concerns with the addition next to, you have the curb protecting it, but when that's removed, by the slope's okay, but any leaders on the west side of the addition should be directed into the interior of the property, not along the property line. Okay. And I'm just not.
Can I say something?
Yes.
So in light of my colleagues' opinions, did you consider any designs that would shift the bedroom over so that it wouldn't be right on the property line?
We did. It was something that we looked at a number of different ways. It was out of our budget, and we thought that we're basically trying to maximize space in our backyard, and that creating dead space when space is so limited.
So I'm sorry.
Right.
So not to cut you off. So I think you answered this before, but the new bathroom, is that totally within the existing walls?
I think it comes out a little bit in the back.
So
like
it does
a
extend
foot.
past it.
I
So
think
either way, so
no,
just
right,
to work
yeah.
on the bathroom, you would need the variance
Yeah.
because it's touching. Because John made a good point about, someone coming back years later to add a second floor. And this is a time to avoid that situation. And without the history, it's a problem.
If that's us, we can, I don't know if there's
No,
some
but it's beyond,
stipulation that we can.
this is
we can
this is
step
going
back.
beyond what
Yeah.
your intentions
I
are.
understand.
So I think in light of that, I actually am more inclined not to approve that side yard as well. So I don't know if we're gonna split the variance on the vote, but.
Okay, yeah, just let me follow up with one thing which I should have asked before. So currently, the rear entrance, that portion of the house is set back a little further than the wall on the east side, correct? And you're proposing to bring that wall out to match?
Yes.
And the rear, to do this simply, will be extended slightly further to accommodate the bathroom.
Yes.
And then there's the bedroom part of the addition.
Passageway between the,
Okay, any further discussion of board members? Okay, why don't we make a motion to approve the coverage variance, and we'll go from there.
Motion to approve the coverage variance as specified?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we move on to the fun part, and I think regardless of which motion is made, it should have conditions 4 and 5 from the Historic Preservation Commission, and that the stormwater be retained on the site, in particular any downspouts on the west side be directed into the interior of the lot. But with those conditions, does someone want to make a motion? I think okay, so I think doesn't necessarily have to be how others, so there's the part of the addition to accommodate the bathroom, keeping the 8-inch whatever.
I just want to confirm that's the case, because the existing depth of the house is 40 feet, 6 3/4 inches, and then shows the new addition is 10 foot, 4.5 inches. But the new depth of the house is 11 1/4. So it looks like the bathroom is contained in the existing footprint. Yeah, but it's all in part of the existing footprint that exists today.
Yeah, I think it's inches, but it's essentially in the footprint. Just because that back wall is going to have to be fully rebuilt, most likely. So an updated foundation, poured foundation, and then new framing.
Right, but
Probably
it's
2
not
by
an-
6.
It's not an addition to the house. You're just
Correct.
rebuilding what's there.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that was 2 different answers. One, it isn't changing, and one, it is a few inches further.
Well, prior, I had stated that the kitchen is getting smaller, so the bathroom is being enlarged into the kitchen. And we're keeping that kitchen wall the same as well, structurally. But then rebuilding the back where the existing bathroom is, just because it's in such shoddy construction and shape right now.
So question,
My
are you
understanding
removing
was
the
that it
wall?
goes down slightly into the back. From our experience with this project, my understanding is the bathroom basically is contained into the structure, but it goes out slightly into the backyard.
I have a question. So are you removing the wall, the bathroom wall that is shared with the kitchen? Are you moving that, or you're keeping it?
That is moved, that's moved.
That
Yeah,
is moved.
that needs to be rebuilt anyway. It's coming apart.
And that's to accommodate the larger bathroom.
So wait, you're just adding it, making it more confusing. So if you have to take that wall between the bathroom and the kitchen out, and the existing bathroom is within the existing building, then assuming that you were not adding a bedroom, you can do this without the side yard setback, the variance, right?
If there was no bedroom addition.
If you weren't building the bedroom, you can redo the bathroom, which needs the work, without the variance.
It's on the same footprint, yes.
Right.
I think
So-
the misunderstanding came from the 12 inches were being taken away from the kitchen, being added to the bathroom, rather than going in.
Yeah, you're going, you're
backyard
staying,
area.
again,
I think
you're
that's where the 12
keeping the
inches is.
bedroom completely out of it. You can do this work without the variance on the side yard. Right.
For just the bathroom.
For just the bathroom.
Just the bathroom.
Correct.
So with that being said, that's even a bigger reason why you should at least consider shifting the bedroom over so we don't have to be right on the property line.
It's a bad move. I would totally trust you, but it's just, it's.
Bad move for who?
Diminishes, I think it diminishes the value of the house. I think it diminishes the value of our neighbor's house. I really do. I don't think it's the right move.
It will be seen from the front and the side on the block. It's a small dead-end block, about 2, 4, 6, 8 houses. I mean,
Well-
I know the concern from the historical preservation was, will this be seen? And in this design, it will hardly be seen. It flows right into the existing structure. Adding a side bunk for the bedroom.
I understand that, but where.
But yeah, the house bumps out on that side in the front.
Yeah. So again, this is a matter of setting a precedent for the town where your house would be the precedent to say like, hey, you know, you allow this here. It causes larger problems beyond just this property. And considering that, you know, I understand that you need to do the repairs, which you can do, you know, without the bedroom, although the bedroom is the primary target. So I recommend looking at some alternate designs for that bedroom so that you at least come off the property line. That's my opinion. But the board just has their own, but that's my opinion.
Any further discussion, or does someone want to make a motion?
So like if they come out of that bump out, it's 370. If you look at the survey compared to that, I think it would look like here, 3 feet. It would be weird, I understand, but you're not in Hoboken. It's just, it's a piece of property in Hoboken, yeah, that makes sense, but you're not, you're in the suburb of Montclair.
I understand. Would it matter? Would it be helpful if we postponed and had our neighbor weigh in?
Maybe, but I think it's cost, too.
Front yard
It's
variance
cost.
for that
It's
house.
cost.
What the cost is.
Cost is a huge concern.
If you see it in my face, it's because cost is a huge concern. I'm not sure we're gonna get this done another way. But we'd be happy to speak to our neighbors and see if they would, you know, proactively assent,
If that would help.
if that would
the
help
vote.
the matter.
I'm not sure if that would, because this is going, I mean, our board looks down generations and generations, and I'm not sure if that would work that way.
Well, someone could make a motion to approve the side yard setback subject to the conditions outlined by the chairman as originally proposed, or someone could make a motion to approve the side yard setback with some greater setback and deny the balance of the variance. Those are your choices. Or you can make a motion to deny, but it doesn't sound like we're going on a total denial.
Yeah, I would rather not deny. I would like to see, at least see some alternate designs. Just so you don't have to come back here and start all over.
May I ask a question, or more for guidance? What kind of setback from that side would we be talking about? Would we be talking about the 3 feet to slide it over?
3 feet is what we
3
traditionally
feet.
do.
And the 3 feet is recommended because of its a maintenance
Yes.
dimension.
And including the other conditions that were articulated by the chairman, and obviously denying the balance of the variance request, but, okay, go ahead. So that's a motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
You want to call the roll?
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Caulfield?
No.
Mr. Church?
No.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Vieira?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. We are not meeting February 1st.
Okay.
We are meeting February 15th, which we're starting to collect applications in significant numbers. And
Did they get the application approved? This was approved.
yes.
Approved with the 3-foot.
We're not going to build that. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion,
Motion to adjourn?
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.